Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into a musician who is often called the fiery soul of modern jazz, alto saxophonist Vincent Herring.
That's right.
You've brought us a stack of sources that don't just detail his career, they really lay out a kind of blueprint.
Yeah, a blueprint for how a contemporary artist can become this genuine bridge, between the giants of the past and, well, maybe the logic of the future.
Okay.
So that's the mission, really. We want to distill everything here to understand how Herring operates across his, 5 key roles: alto saxophonist, flautist, bandleader, educator, and composer.
5 roles, wow.
Yeah. And the central mystery we need to solve for you listening is, how did he cultivate that signature sound? That hard-bop fusion of raw, fiery passion and almost startling technical brilliance.
And what jumps out immediately is just the sheer scope. This isn't just a touring musician, right?
Not at all.
He's someone who played side by side with the actual originators of hard bop, Dizzy Gillespie, Freddie Hubbard. And yet he's also published this, high-level academic text on the logic behind jazz improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
The duality is just immense.
That duality, I think, is really the foundation of his whole career. He sort of exemplifies this idea that freedom in art often requires some pretty severe discipline and preparation.
Okay, discipline. Let's start there. The foundation.
Right.
So, starting at the beginning, our sources place his birth in 1964, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. He starts young, picks up the sax at age 11, studying privately in Vallejo, California, laying the groundwork early.
And those formative years were clearly laser-focused on the masters, the ones who define the soul and structure of modern saxophone playing.
Okay.
His 2 towering influences are, instantly recognizable in his sound: Julian, Cannonball, Adderley, and Charlie Parker.
Cannonball and Bird. That immediately puts him right in that hard bop tradition. Right. Cannonball for the deep blues feel, the soulful storytelling and the playing, and then Bird for the sheer harmonic speed and the technical demands.
Exactly. When you hear that driving, blues-drenched energy combined with that rapid-fire melodic invention, you are hearing that direct lineage. It's unmistakable.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the interesting part, maybe the twist. How was that energy refined? It wasn't just, late nights and smoky clubs.
Right. That's where the structure comes in, and this is the nugget I find really surprising. Military service.
Yeah.
Herring served as the lead alto in the U.S. Military Academy Band, the Jazz Knights.
Think about that for a second. The implications.
Yeah.
You have this future titan of fiery, improvised music steeped in the structure and, frankly, the discipline of a military environment.
It's counterintuitive almost.
It does. But that experience combined with his college studies, California State University, Chico, and Long Island University, that really forged his technical steel.
But I have to ask, doesn't that level of military discipline, doesn't it risk sacrificing some of that raw spontaneity we associate with fiery soul? Wouldn't that structure kind of sterilize the music?
That's the critical question, isn't it? But the sources, they seem to suggest the opposite.
Okay.
That the structure is actually what makes the fire sustainable. Discipline provides the sheer technical capacity, the chops, to execute the most complex, demanding phrases effortlessly. Like if you have to think about the technique while you're playing.
We can't fully commit to the feeling.
Exactly. You can't fully surrender to the feeling.
Okay, so the hours spent in rigorous discipline practice, maybe even pushed by that military environment, we're basically building an infrastructure. Strong enough for his incredible musical voice to just soar.
Precisely. The discipline is the engine, you could say, not the brake.
Engine, not the brake. I like that.
Yeah. It allows him to transition smoothly from, say, the controlled complexity of a Bird tribute to the gospel-tinged simplicity of a Cannonball-style ballad, all without hesitation. That is high-level technical brilliance serving the musical feeling.
Okay, makes sense. So that technical discipline, it clearly paid off pretty quickly then.
Oh, yeah.
Moving from the classroom and the barracks to the actual bandstand, his early professional success included touring with the iconic Lionel Hampton Big Band.
And what's fascinating here isn't just who he played with, but how deep his commitment ran. Unlike many jazz artists whose careers are marked by these rapid, short-lived collaborations.
Right, constantly shifting bands.
Exactly. Herring built his legacy on, absolute consistency.
And you're pointing to the 2 bedrock collaborations that really defined his early to mid-career here.
Yes. First, his nearly decade-long tenure with Nat Adderley, Cannonball's brother. He spent 9 years recording 9 albums. Think about that. He was effectively serving as the keeper and maybe the evolution of the Cannonball Adderley sound. directly mentored by the family.
9 years, 9 albums. That consistency, that partnership is just astonishing in jazz.
It really is.
And then you have his collaboration with the pianist Cedar Walton.
Which spanned over 2 decades.
20 years. In a genre defined by constant change, what does that consistency tell us about Vincent Herring?
It speaks volumes, I think, about reliability, certainly mastery, and crucially, about his role in sustaining that hard bop infrastructure. Cedar Walton was, one of the most respected figures in post-bop piano.
Absolutely.
For Herring to maintain a 2-decade seat next to him means he was providing this constant, reliable, deeply informed voice night after night. He wasn't just a guest star, he was a core architectural element of that ongoing musical tradition.
A core element. And these long-term partnerships, they must have given him the credibility to step onto basically any stage. Our sources list the giants he collaborated with. Art Blakey, Horace Silver, Dizzy Gillespie, Freddie Hubbard. These are the founding fathers of the very tradition he champions.
It's the highest level of apprenticeship imaginable, right? To play with those names means you aren't just reading charts. You are being rigorously tested in the language of the music, often in real-time improvisation.
Right.
On the spot. That experience absolutely shaped him into the definition of a hard bop titan.
And he actively pays that legacy forward too, which is why he co-founded the Cannonball Adderley Legacy Band with the great drummer Louise Hayes.
Exactly. He's transitioned from student to steward. He's proactively ensuring that sound continues for a new generation.
That makes sense.
We also see this in his own leadership projects, like that collaborative album, The Battle, with Eric Alexander, another great saxophonist, and his group, Something Else. These are like contemporary vehicles for that classic hard bop energy.
And just to cement his elite status, we have to mention those high-profile guest soloist with Wynton Marsalis at Lincoln Center. That's huge. And his membership in the prestigious Phil Woods sax machine.
Yeah. Being tapped by Phil Woods, another alto legend.
Says it all.
It does. And all this activity, it leads us to one staggering metric that truly defines his professional life. His output is just immense. Over 20 albums as a leader, yes, that's impressive. But perhaps more importantly, he features on over 250 albums as a sideman.
250 albums?
250.
That's not just a career. That's practically a small library of modern jazz right there.
It really is.
That productivity suggests that if a serious jazz record was being made in the last, say, 3 decades, there was a pretty high probability Vincent Herring was the person getting the call for the alto chair.
You could argue he's the most utilized alto saxophonist of his generation, and that speaks directly to his technical readiness, his deep understanding of the language. He's utility, mastery, and soul all wrapped into one.
Utility, mastery, and soul. Okay. Given that level of mastery and contribution, it feels almost inevitable he'd transition into education, right? Yeah. Where he can codify that knowledge.
Absolutely.
And he is currently faculty at 2 highly respected institutions, William Patterson University and the Manhattan School of Music.
And this is where we bring the entire story kind of full circle. The man known for the fiery soul of hard bop is now teaching it.
Right.
And that brings us to his most recent and I think most fascinating project, his 2024 book, Logic and Critical Thinking in Jazz Improvisation.
Okay, this is the ultimate synthesis, isn't it? A book about logic written by an artist whose whole reputation is built on pure, visceral feeling. What exactly does critical thinking mean when you're blowing a 16th note solo at like 300 beats per minute? How does that work?
Well, it means that true artistic freedom isn't just about, throwing things against the wall and hoping they stick.
Right, not just random notes.
No, it's about having such a profound understanding of harmony, melody, rhythm, that every musical choice, even the totally spontaneous ones, is actually rooted in a logical progression. Critical thinking, in this context, is the ability to instantly assess where you are harmonically, where you want to go next, and which melodic line, which phrase will take you there most effectively and, importantly, most emotionally.
So he's basically systematizing intuition.
Yeah.
He's taking the perceived magic out of genius and showing that it's actually a product of deep, structured intellectual work.
Yes.
The very same discipline he learned way back in Section 1, maybe even in the military band.
Exactly. The logic isn't the opposite of the soul. It's the pathway to making sure your soulful idea lands exactly right with maximum impact. This book is, I think, a monumental contribution because it explicitly outlines how the masters approach improvisation. It moves it beyond just rote memorization into a real decision-making process.
That's the aha moment for you, the listener, right? To understand why his playing is so consistently powerful.
That's it. It completely elevates the perception of what improvisation actually is.
Okay, let's quickly chart his discography just to show how long he's been synthesizing this approach. His career arc is massive, starting with Scene 1, way back in 1989.
And you see that maturity grow pretty quickly. A key milestone for any jazz artist is recording live at the Village Vanguard.
The Holy Grail.
Pretty much, which he did in 1994 with Folklore,
Yeah.
live at the Village Vanguard. That venue is hallowed ground, confirms his standing among the absolute elite.
And we also see him continually honoring his foundation. Look at his 2019 album, Bird at 100. Still actively engaging with the legacy of Charlie Parker decades later.
Keeping the flame alive. And he remains an absolute force in contemporary music today, with projects like Split Decision scheduled for release in 2025.
So he's not resting on his legacy at all.
Not even close. He's a current, active, defining voice who is simultaneously innovating through his compositions, teaching through his university roles, and actually structuring the very thought process of the next generation through his writing. It's remarkable.
It really is. Okay, so let's wrap this up.
So, if we look at the full picture of Vincent Herring, what have we found? I think he is the consummate bridge figure in modern jazz.
A bridge figure.
He successfully fused that intense technical discipline learned early on, even that regimented military structure we talked about, with the foundational deep soul hard bop legacy of Cannonball, Adderley, and Charlie Parker.
Right.
He then took that mastery, and rather than keeping it some kind of secret, he formalized it to educate others, passed it on.
So the final key takeaway for you, listening, is that his enduring relevance comes precisely from his ability to manage those seemingly opposed identities. He is the fiery hard bop titan, and he's the intellectual educational authority writing about logic. That duality passion married to structure is what makes his contribution to music so profound and his career so lasting.
And this raises, I think, an important question for you to explore as you maybe dive into his deep discography. If improvisation relies on critical thinking, as his book suggests, how does that application of logic change our definition of what makes a piece of music sound truly soulful? When you listen to Vincent Herring's solos, try to hear the deliberate logical architecture that's actually supporting that overwhelming passion.
Look for the structure under the fire.
Exactly. Maybe start with Folklore, that live Vanguard album, and try to find the structure beneath the fire. It's there.